Sometimes, the people who promise to protect your family are the very ones waiting for the perfect moment to betray it. And sometimes, justice arrives inside nothing more than a plain manila folder. That birthday cake wasn't just dessert, it became the first piece of evidence that my family had already decided my grandmother no longer mattered. My name is Nora Caldwell, and I was 32 years old when I realized that greed doesn't always come wearing a stranger's face. Sometimes it smiles across the same dinner table where you grew up. Sometimes it calls itself family. My grandmother, Lorraine, turned 79 on a quiet Saturday in October. Even with her memory beginning to fade, she insisted on doing what she'd done every birthday for decades, baking her famous vanilla cake with buttercream roses. She carefully set the dining table for 8 people. The good china. Freshly folded napkins. A bouquet of dried hydrangeas from her garden. She believed every seat would be filled. None of them were. My parents had flown to Aspen for a ski vacation. My older brother, Aaron, managed nothing more than a short text saying he hoped she enjoyed her birthday before posting pictures of snowy mountains online. My father didn't even bother sending a message. I finished my shift in Hartford, bought flowers from a gas station, and drove nearly 3 hours to Briarwood. When I stepped inside her house, silence greeted me before she did. The birthday candles had already melted into the frosting. The ice cream had turned into a puddle. 7 untouched plates surrounded the table like silent witnesses. Lorraine sat alone, holding a glass of water with both hands. She looked toward me, blinked twice, then smiled. "Nora, you came. I wouldn't miss your birthday for anything." She looked around the empty room. "They're running late, aren't they?" The question broke something inside me. Instead of answering, I gently cut 2 slices of cake and placed one in front of her. We skipped the forks. We laughed as frosting covered our fingers. Then I started singing Happy Birthday. Halfway through the song, she quietly interrupted me. "Would you sing it again?" "Of course. I want to remember it this time." So I smiled through the tears gathering in my eyes and sang it all over again. Later that night, after helping her upstairs, I tucked the blanket around her shoulders. She suddenly grabbed my wrist. Her cloudy eyes became strangely focused. "They think I don't notice," she whispered. "What don't they think you notice, Gran?" She opened her mouth. But before another word escaped, sleep carried her away. Those 6 words echoed in my head all night. The next morning I started cleaning the kitchen while Lorraine rested in her recliner. Behind an old family photograph on a hallway shelf, I found a realtor's business card. On the back, someone had written one number in blue ink. $680,000. My stomach tightened. Why would someone hide a real estate card inside my grandmother's home? I tried convincing myself it meant nothing. Exactly 15 minutes later, the front doorbell rang. 2 strangers stood outside. One carried a leather briefcase. The other held a thick sealed manila folder with my grandmother's handwriting across the flap. Neither of them smiled. "Are you Nora Caldwell?" the older woman asked. When I nodded, she placed the folder into my hands and quietly said, "Your grandmother asked us to deliver this to you, when the time finally came." At that moment, I had no idea that everything my family believed they had already won was about to disappear because of what was hidden inside that ordinary-looking folder. The woman waited until I took the folder into my hands before speaking again. "Mrs. Caldwell instructed us to give this only to you," she said calmly. "Please don't discuss its contents with anyone until you've spoken with attorney Ruth Adler." Before I could ask another question, she handed me a business card, nodded politely, and walked back to the waiting car with the notary beside her. I stood frozen on the porch. The folder felt strangely heavy. Not because of its weight. Because somehow, I already knew it carried answers my family never wanted me to see. Just then my phone buzzed. "Mom, who was at the house?" "Don't sign anything." My heartbeat skipped. How did she know someone had been here? I looked toward the road. The visitor's car had already disappeared. Inside, Grandma Lorraine slept peacefully in her recliner, a crossword puzzle slowly sliding from her lap. Her breathing was soft, almost childlike. I didn't want to wake her. Instead, I carried the folder into the kitchen and placed it on the same table where her untouched birthday cake had sat the night before. For several seconds I simply stared at Grandma's signature across the seal. It wasn't shaky. It wasn't confused. Every letter was neat and deliberate. This had been signed by the Lorraine I remembered, the woman who taught me to read contracts before I could legally sign one. Taking a slow breath, I broke the seal. Inside were dozens of legal documents. Immediately I recognized them from my job at the elder law office. A recorded property deed. Trust documents. A durable power of attorney. Medical evaluations. Notarized witness pages. Everything had been prepared over a year earlier. But one handwritten note rested on top. Cream-colored stationery. Blue ink. Her handwriting. Nora, when they come for the house, open this. Everything you need is inside. I love you. I'm sorry. It has to be you. I read those words once. Then again. Then a third time. One sentence refused to leave my mind. When they come for the house. Not if. When. My grandmother had known. More than a year before her memory began slipping away. She had already seen something coming. She had prepared for it. A chill ran through me. How long had she been carrying this fear completely alone? Looking toward the living room, I watched her sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that the future she'd tried so hard to protect had finally arrived. I gently closed the folder. That night sleep never came. Every few minutes I opened another document, trying to understand what Lorraine had spent months preparing. Each page revealed another layer of careful planning. Nothing had been rushed. Nothing had been accidental. It was as though she had quietly built a fortress using nothing but paperwork. The next morning I called my office for the first sick day I'd taken in years. Something inside me refused to leave the house. While carrying out the recycling, something metallic caught my eye behind the hydrangea bushes. I walked closer. My heart nearly stopped. Attached to the gas meter was a realtor's lockbox. The same kind agents used during home showings. I hadn't imagined the business card. Someone had actually been bringing buyers here. Without telling Lorraine. Without telling me. I hurried back inside and began searching through the unopened mail stacked on the hallway table. Within minutes I found an off-market listing sheet. 4 bedrooms. 2.5 baths. Listed for $680,000. $50,000 below nearby homes. My hand started shaking. Then I opened the kitchen junk drawer. What I found there stole every remaining ounce of doubt I had. A partially completed purchase agreement. The buyer's name was already filled in. So was the closing date. And under seller's representative. One name stared back at me. Lorraine Caldwell. My own brother. Suddenly Grandma's whispered words echoed louder than ever. They think I don't notice. She had noticed. Everything. And I was beginning to realize that the biggest betrayal hadn't happened yet. It was scheduled to happen in just a few weeks. I spread every document across the kitchen floor, arranging them one beside another like pieces of a puzzle that had finally started making sense. The realtor's listing. The unsigned purchase agreement. The hidden lockbox. Grandma's handwritten note. Nothing about this was accidental. Someone had been preparing to sell Lorraine's home while she slowly lost the ability to defend herself. That evening, I couldn't stay silent any longer. I called my mother. Her cheerful voice answered almost immediately. "Oh, Nora. We just got back from Aspen. Wasn't the snow beautiful?" I ignored the small talk. "Mom, why is there a realtor's lockbox outside Grandma's house?" Silence. A long, uncomfortable silence. Finally, she sighed. "Your father and Aaron are taking care of everything. Lorraine can't live there forever." "So you're selling her house?" "It's called planning ahead," she replied. "She needs professional care, and Aaron's business is going through a difficult period. This helps everyone." I gripped the phone tighter. Except Grandma. Her voice instantly turned cold. Nora, your grandmother has dementia. By Christmas, she won't even remember that house. Those words hit harder than I expected. I looked toward the living room where Lorraine quietly slept beneath her favorite blanket. Maybe her memories were fading. But her love for that home hadn't. Neither had her courage. I ended the call without another word. Then I picked up Ruth Adler's business card and placed it beside the manila folder. Tomorrow, I wasn't looking for family answers anymore. I was looking for the truth. The next morning, I left before sunrise with the manila folder resting on the passenger seat. Every mile toward Hartford felt heavier than the last. Deep down, I already knew this wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about a promise my grandmother had made to herself long before anyone realized she was forgetting things. Attorney Ruth Adler's office occupied the second floor of a quiet brownstone. The waiting room smelled faintly of old books and fresh tea. When I gave my name, the receptionist didn't ask a single question. "They're expecting you," she said gently. That sentence alone told me everything. Ruth welcomed me into a conference room and carefully closed the door. "Before we begin," she said, "I want you to understand something. Your grandmother wasn't confused when she came here 14 months ago." She opened a duplicate copy of the folder. "She was frightened." I leaned forward without realizing it. "Frightened of what?" Ruth folded her hands together. "She believed your parents and your brother would eventually try to sell her home once she could no longer stop them." Those words settled over the room like a heavy blanket. "So, she knew?" "She didn't just know," Ruth replied. "She prepared." One by one, Ruth explained every document. Lorraine had legally transferred the house into a revocable living trust while she was still mentally competent. She had appointed herself as trustee during her lifetime. But if doctors ever determined she had lost capacity, the responsibility wouldn't pass to Gregory. It wouldn't go to Aaron. It would pass directly to me. I stared at the papers. "She chose me?" Ruth nodded. Very deliberately. She slid another document across the table. A medical evaluation signed by her neurologist the very same day. The doctor confirmed your grandmother fully understood every decision she made. Legally, these documents are incredibly strong. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My grandmother had quietly protected herself before anyone realized protection would be necessary. Then Ruth looked at me again. "There's something else." My heart skipped. "If your family convinced Lorraine to sign new paperwork after her dementia became more advanced." She paused. "Those documents may not hold up in court." The drive back to Briarwood felt completely different. I wasn't confused anymore. I was determined. When I opened the front door, Lorraine was sitting in her favorite recliner watching television with the volume turned much too high. She smiled the moment she saw me. "You went to see Ruth?" I froze. "You remember Ruth?" "For today." She whispered with a tiny smile. "Yes." I knelt beside her chair. "You protected the house, Gran." She looked toward the kitchen. "They've been bringing strangers through here." My chest tightened. "I hear doors opening while the nurse is here," she continued quietly. "People looking into my rooms, my kitchen, like I'm already gone." I gently took her hand. "Nobody is taking your house." She squeezed my fingers with surprising strength. "I'm not gone yet, Nora." Those 4 words burned into my memory. The following afternoon, Aaron arrived without knocking. He walked inside like he owned the place, tossed his keys onto the counter, and grabbed a sparkling water from the refrigerator. "You're spending a lot of time here," he said casually. "I'm exactly where I need to be." His smile faded just enough for me to notice. Then I asked the question he'd never expected. "Aaron, why is your name listed as the seller's representative on Grandma's house?" The room became painfully quiet. For several long seconds, neither of us moved. Then he slowly set the drink on the counter. "Who showed you that paperwork?" I didn't answer. Instead, I simply looked him in the eyes. And for the first time in my life, my brother realized I knew exactly what they had been trying to hide. Aaron's smile disappeared completely. For the first time, confidence gave way to panic. He took one slow step toward me, lowering his voice as though the walls themselves might be listening. "Nora, let's not make this bigger than it has to be." I folded my arms. "It became bigger the moment you tried to sell Grandma's home without her understanding what was happening." He rubbed both hands across his face. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under." "I understand more than you think. My company is collapsing. If this sale doesn't happen, everything I built disappears." I looked toward the living room where Lorraine sat peacefully working on another crossword puzzle. "And if the sale does happen, everything Grandma built disappears." Aaron had no answer. A few days later, every person involved gathered at the title company's conference room. The buyer arrived. The realtor arrived. My parents walked in together, acting as though the deal had already been completed. Then Ruth Adler entered beside me. She quietly placed 3 certified documents on the table. The recorded trust deed. Lorraine's original durable power of attorney. The neurologist's capacity evaluation. No dramatic speech. No shouting. Just facts. The escrow officer carefully examined each page before opening the title file. Her expression slowly changed. She looked directly at the realtor. "You informed this office that the trust had already been dissolved." The realtor's face turned pale. I was told." Ruth calmly interrupted. "The trust has never been dissolved. The recorded deed remains active. The property legally belongs to the trust, not to any individual seller." The room became silent. Then came 5 words none of them expected to hear. "This closing cannot proceed." Everything stopped. The buyer quietly closed his folder and stood. The realtor avoided everyone's eyes. My father lowered his head without saying a single word. Aaron looked like the ground had disappeared beneath him. My mother finally broke the silence. "You're destroying this family." I met her eyes. "No." My voice stayed calm. "Our family began destroying itself the day everyone decided Grandma's memory mattered less than her house." No one argued after that. There was nothing left to say. Paper doesn't get emotional. Truth doesn't need to raise its voice. The documents had spoken. Within weeks, Adult Protective Services completed its investigation. The fraudulent paperwork was declared invalid. The attempted sale officially collapsed. The trust remained exactly where Lorraine wanted it. Safe. Months later, I moved into the guest room I'd slept in as a little girl. Every morning I helped Grandma water the hydrangeas lining the front walk. Some days she remembered my name. Some days she didn't. But every afternoon we sat together at the old maple kitchen table, the same table she'd begged me to protect. One spring afternoon I baked her favorite vanilla cake. She smiled after the first bite. "This tastes familiar." "It's your recipe, Gran." She laughed softly. "Then don't ever change it." "I won't." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. It wasn't a strong grip anymore. But it carried all the love she'd spent a lifetime giving away. The house stayed. The table stayed. Most importantly, her dignity stayed. Looking back, I realized something that no legal document could ever fully explain. A person's value is never measured by how much they remember. It's measured by how faithfully we remember them. If someone you love is growing older, don't wait for a crisis to protect them. Visit them. Call them. Sit beside them. Listen to their stories while they can still tell them. One ordinary afternoon can become a memory you'll treasure forever.